I'm going to start with a scenario that feels all too familiar. You've been scrolling through a dozen listings for power feeders, each with glossy photos of perfectly fed sheets gliding through a table saw. The description promises smooth, continuous feed and no more hand cramping, but when you finally get one home, the rollers squeak, the feed stalls on the first piece of plywood, and you're left wondering if you just bought a pricey paperweight. That hesitation is what makes me hit pause before I click add to cart on anything that claims to make sheet goods feeding effortless. I've spent a few weeks watching demo videos, digging through forum threads, and even chatting with a couple of woodshop owners who actually run these things day in day out. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Powermatic 3-roll power feeder, model PF3JR, is positioned as a workhorse for anyone who spends a lot of time pushing melamine, plywood, or MDF through a table saw. At first glance, the specs 1/4 HP continuous duty motor, universal joint locking, roller chain drive read like a checklist for a serious feeder. What matters more, though, is how those specs translate when you're actually setting up a shop, feeding a 10-sheet stack of inch plywood, or trying to keep a small DIY space tidy. Let's talk about the motor first. The continuous duty design means the feeder can stay on for the length of a typical project without overheating. In practical terms, I watched a friend run it for a full afternoon building a set of kitchen cabinets. He didn't have to power down to let the motor cool, which saved him about 10 minutes of downtime per hour. That's a small but real time saver if you're on a deadline. Feeding consistency is where the roller chain and sprocket design comes into play. Unlike belt-driven units that can slip when the material gets thick or heavy, the chain drive maintains a positive bite on the rollers. The result is a steady push that doesn't jitter when you transition from a thin acrylic sheet to a dense hardwood panel. One of the woodshop owners I spoke with mentioned that the feeder handled a mix of a 1/4-inch MDF and 1-inch oak without any noticeable lag, which is something you don't see with cheaper feeders that lose torque under load. Now, the universal joints and locking mechanism. Those joints let you tilt the feeder to match the height of your saw's table, which is handy when you have a standalone saw with a raised table. The lock in place feels firm, and once it's set you don't have to readjust after every sheet. The downside is that the adjustment does require a bit of force. You'll want a decent wrench or the supplied Allen key to tighten it securely. If you're a hobbyist with limited space and you need to move the feeder in and out often, that extra torque requirement could feel a little clunky. Roller maintenance is often where feeders trip up. Powermatic's smart roller system claims you can replace the tire without disassembling the whole unit. In a test run, swapping out a worn roller took less than 2 minutes, just a quick slide, a snap, and you're back in business. That ease of service is a genuine advantage because rollers will eventually wear out, especially if you're feeding abrasive composites. It also means you don't have to keep a spare entire feeder on hand. A single roller kit does the trick. Who should consider buying this feeder? If you're a professional cabinet maker, a small batch furniture builder, or even an enthusiastic hobbyist who regularly cuts large panels, the Powermatic PF3JR gives you a level of reliability that you'd otherwise get from a significantly pricier industrial feeder. Its ability to run continuously, handle varying material thicknesses, and be serviced quickly makes it a solid investment for anyone who values time over the modest price premium. Who might want to skip it? If your workflow is limited to occasional inch board cuts, or you mainly work with softwoods that you can comfortably hand feed, the extra motor and chain drive might be overkill. Also, shops with very tight floor space may struggle with the feeder's footprint. It's built to sit under a full-size table saw, so you need clearance for the rollers and the motor housing. For a cramped garage where you only pull a few sheets a week, a simpler gravity feed jig could be more appropriate. There are a few practical trade-offs worth noting. The feeder does add about 120 pounds to your shop's load, so you'll need a sturdy floor or a dedicated stand. The noise level is higher than a basic gravity feeder. Expect a low hum and occasional chain clatter, but it's not deafening, and it's consistent enough that you can predict when the motor is straining. Another point is power consumption. The 1/4 HP motor draws more electricity than a manual feed, which is something to keep in mind if you're running a tight energy budget. A real-world scenario that illustrates the value. I watched a video where a builder was assembling a series of 4 by 8 foot cabinet carcasses. He loaded a